Hi everyone and welcome to, I almost said Beaumont Presbyterian Church. And you, in fact, welcome to Beaumont Presbyterian Church, but also welcome to Woburn Church. Great to have you here. We want to say out loud that no matter what your socioeconomic background is, no matter what your race or ethnicity, no matter your sexual orientation or gender identity, no matter your age, no matter, what else divides us? No matter your political affiliation, you're welcome here. And we're glad that you're here. And also, this is a fairly relaxed community, so I hope you can, there's coffee back there and like Coke and stuff, and also teas. And so, avail yourself to that anytime. Just come and go as you wish. And Derek preached this morning at Beaumont, so that was really cool. He did a wonderful job. And so thanks for leading us now in music.
Hey. Y'all definitely know the first one. The second one is John, you'll know it. It's a.
The AWC one?
Yeah. I think. We're talking about the book, right?
Yes.
Okay, then it should work. Alright. 1, 2, 3,
satisfied.
satisfied. Oh, God, be my everything, be my delight, be Jesus, my glory, my soul satisfied. If I could see you now, come passing through, or climb for just one glimpse. And I would not doubt if I could touch you now. Just one piece of you, a shred of cloak is enough. I hardly know anymore what's here, what's gone before. Just take my hand, tell me you're leaving. And I would not doubt if I could see you now, come passing through, show me your glory. And I would not doubt if I could touch you now. Won't you feel your skies? Let me touch your suffering. 'Cause I don't know anymore what's here, what's gone before. Just take my hand, tell me you're here. 'Cause I don't know anymore what's here, what's gone before. Just take my hand, let me know you're here. Or just one glimpse, or just one touch, or just one hand. Until then I will trust. For just one glimpse, for just one touch, for just one hand. Until then I will trust. Oh, God, be my everything, be my delight, be Jesus. my soul satisfied. Oh God, be my everything, be my delight, be Jesus, my glory, my soul satisfied. Lord Jesus, we thank you that you're good, and the things that we lack, whether it be joy, peace, love, those are the things that you're holding out your hands with full love, and we just get to reach out and take it. So I pray today, whatever it is that we need, whatever it is that we're lacking, that you as the Good Shepherd would look at us, that we would take it, and we would be able to say, I want for nothing. So we thank you for even in the doubt, the people that we read about in the scriptures, they just kept clawing their way back. Thank you that we don't really have to do that. It's Holy Spirit here with us. So we thank you for being good, and that good can only mean good. That is in Jesus' name.
Thank you so much, Derek. Thank you, Matt. And really is good to have you here today. Whether it's your first time or been here many times. In the summer a lot of regulars are gone, and so it's nice to have some new people when a lot of the regulars are away. Boy, there's so many avenues I want to go down, Derek, because of some of the stuff you said today. Hey, could we get another mic that we could put out? So one is that even though we're a church that is a question church instead of an answer church, we're still really Jesus people. Like, we still are really about Jesus. We think that he embodied God. That Jesus was God in flesh, and that's our best picture of what God's like. And if you look back on history, just think of any historical figure, you will come out with someone who you are not altogether pleased with. So you think of our founding fathers, and this is 4th of July weekend, our founding fathers, many of whom were slave owners, many of whom, by today's standards, would not be what we would think of as moral people. In fact, some of them were morally reprehensible. Or religious leaders of the past. If you think of the background I come from, John Wesley, boy, he had some of his act together, and some of it he did not have together. He was abusive to his wife in horrible ways. Or Luther, I hadn't even realized this till a couple weeks, but he was horribly anti-Semitic. Horribly. How could that be? The founder of the Reformation has this kind of moral reprehensibility with him. And the farther you go back, the more you are like, I don't know. to the biblical characters of Abraham or David, and they're just full of not good stuff on many occasions. And there's this one character in history that we can look to and say, this one was different. And that's the person of Jesus. Jesus was a person of his time. He had an Enneagram number. I'm not sure what it was, but he had one. And he loved people in a way that no one before him or after him has done as well at. And Jesus, we really want to be Jesus people. So we can even think of that in a historical realm. But anyway, Derek, what it reminded me of is in the first song, that chorus. It's sort of a love song to Jesus. And I love that. And we in our as we go down different paths that are maybe intellectually interesting, like we're going to talk about a lot today. I just really appreciate being drawn back to a love song to Jesus.
My Baptist brethren would call that Jesus is my boyfriend music.
Yes, so I was thinking of that very term, in fact, while you were speaking. I'm not opposed to Jesus is my boyfriend kind of music. I think our love for Jesus is that kind of rich. And I want it to be that kind of rich and that kind of, strong is. I want it to be that kind of all-encompassing, like even in the song talked about. So, that was one avenue. The second avenue is this one that we're going to talk about today, which is this song, the second song, which is about doubt. And so we're going to be spending the next 5 weeks. This is the first of a 5-week series on a book, actually. Sorry, the pea popper. On a book by Brian McLaren called Faith After Doubt. We're going to be doing it as a book study on Monday nights. Anybody that wants to join, we start a week from tomorrow at Panera Bread at, is it 6:30? Do you remember, Logan?
It is 6:30.
6:30. At Palomar. When you go in on the left, there are those two tables. We're going to try to get to those two tables. So it's Beaumont and Woven. And so it's this book about doubt. And so today I'm going to give an introduction. In the next 4 weeks, Logan and I are going to go and do pod talks sort of on each of those 4 parts that are in the book talks about. It's part 2 of the book if you're reading it already. So, doubt. Do you feel free to doubt? And I'll tell you where this sort of comes from. Back in, let's say, 1990, there were probably just as many gay people as there are today. But especially in the church, that was not a possibility to look at inclusion of gay people. It wasn't even in the Presbyterian Church, the mainline churches weren't even doing it in 1990. And how is it that all of a sudden, in my life, 5 years ago, or longer than that, maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I began to doubt the church's understanding of how it should treat gay people. Really, anybody in LGBTQ. And what is it that shifted between 1990 and 2015 where questioning this assumption that LGBTQ people were less than, should not be given should not be given leadership, supposed to change and become like me. Well, McLaren gives a possibility for this in the chapter called Doubt as Loneliness. The first chapter is called Doubt as Loss. And what that's about is all those of us who have deconstructed, many people in the church have deconstructed and have not returned to faith, reconstructed, but have deconstructed, and from there have left the faith. And the doubt that led to the deconstruction has led to this loss of faith, and there's no one there to mourn with them. One of the goals of our church is to be a place where we can mourn with those who have lost their faith. In other words, you don't have to have deconstructed and reconstructed to be here. We're happy for you to be here, even if you have lost your faith. You are just as welcome, just as valued as anybody else. And in fact, we want to be willing to mourn with you what that feels like to have that loss. The next chapter is this doubt as loneliness, and that's a chapter that gives a possibility for the answer to what I just asked about the 1990 to 2015. And here's the idea. He talks about three sort of committees in your brain. So the first one is the reptilian, and that is this, your brainstem and the cerebellum part of your brain that is basically instinct-driven. So this is the one that babies cry when they are hungry or when they are messy or whatever. That's the part of the brain that's functioning. And it's saying, help! I'm in trouble! Somebody let me out. No, so I was going to say, somebody let me out of here when you're in the womb. Get me out of here. It's that part of your brain that's about survival. So it's hunger, it's sexual drive, it is thirst, it is fear of things, fear of falling, fear of all of the fears that you have come from that part of the brain. The second part is this middle brain part that is, we might call it the relational part, or the intuitive brain, or the mammalian brain, and that mammals have it, which is this understanding of belonging, of wanting to be a part of something. And babies have this from, by the time they're born, it's already fully intact. That's why they're bonding to caregivers, is because that part of the brain is saying, belong, be a part of, it's a good thing. And if you don't have that part of your brain, you will push away your caregivers and you will die. So that middle part, now that continues through our whole life. All three of these parts continue. We still very much have this part of our brain that needs us to be secure, that needs us to be safe. We also have this part of our brain that needs us to be a part of a group. And then the third part might be called the primate brain. It's the neocortex part, basically the brain that's functioning. It's meaning, it's where language comes from. So babies, usually about age 2, are developing this neocortex, this part of the brain that wants to attribute meaning to things, that wants to figure out stuff, that wants to think what we would call. Other ways to talk about this is the gut is that part of your brain that wants to be safe. The heart is that part of your brain that wants to belong. And the head is that part of your brain that wants to know, wants to have meaning. Well, those three parts of your brain are always interacting with each other. And of course, this is a very simplistic view of the whole thing, right? I mean, there's much more nuance than what I'm giving you. But they're always interplay with those three parts, and they're arguing with each other. And usually if there's 2-to-1, it will win out, but it depends on how strongly each of the two feel and so on. So, if your meaning part says, I feel like if I could jump off this building, my life would have all kinds of meaning that it didn't have before. Like I would be able to have perspective like I never had. Well, the reptilian part of your brain says, stop it! Don't do that! That's a bad idea! Do not jump. And it feels so strongly about that it keeps most brains from making that decision. So here's the answer to that question. A possible answer. It's not the only answer, but a possible answer. Our relational brain told us up until just a few years ago that if you thought that gay people were less or were equal in the body of Christ, and that they could have just as much authority in the body and so on, if you thought that, you would be kicked out of the tribe. The middle part of your brain, the belonging, was shouting. If your meaning part, if your thought process ever came to, well, that doesn't make sense, the middle part of your brain, the belonging part, says, are you kidding? Do you want to be kicked out of the tribe? Are you ready to do that? And the voice was so strong that most of us never even entertained what it would look like. To tell people that they were just as valuable as every other person. And then, culture changed enough that at some point, about the time that the Supreme Court said it's okay for gay people to get married, that culture changed enough that this meaning side of our brain was able to override the belonging and say, that's stupid. We don't believe that. That doesn't make any sense at all. And thus the change occurred. Now, here's my first question for you. So, if the brain really is, again, this is simplistic. What is it? Oh, storm siren test. Oh, okay. Good to know. Yeah, I was there's nobody there.
There's a severe thunderstorm warning.
Okay. We're actually not we're not in a great spot right here, but we're very close to a great spot right out in the fellowship hall. So, I mean, not the northeast.
It's just going to rain really heavy for like the next 35 minutes.
Yeah, that'll be okay. If our brains are really making these kinds of committee decisions all the time, my question is, who are you? What is you? I mean, we've always thought, well, you're your personality, your brain, but if your brain is made up of different parts, who gets to decide which part of the brain wins? Does that make sense? So I don't have any answer to it.
For anyone visiting, we're a very scientifically minded church.
So could you ask this one more time?
Yeah. What makes you you? Is it the sum total of the decisions you've made all your life? Is it this? Is it the meaning part of your brain when it's like? Is it the primary you, or is it your reptilian brains? Go for it, Clay.
Well, the way I see it, I'm me because I'm stuck in my body. Nothing can change that, except dying.
Very true. No, and I'm all with you.
I'm sort of trapped on a roller coaster, you know? We'll see where it goes. That's me.
I don't know, I don't always get along with my body.
Yeah, that's right. Doesn't always get along. We don't always get along with our bodies. It's on.
Like a heartburn, and a lot of crap goes around in my body, but that's not going to stop me from kicking the world's butt. Because if they were to stop me, I'm going to keep on pushing.
Thank you. I think that's right. You know, that there is a part of us that gets to decide what we're going to do. And that is us. That is who you are. It's a puzzle to me beyond that. Anybody else have any insight? All right. We will move right along. That's totally good. All right. So, yeah.
I think in Hindu there's a kind of classical thought experiment, which is the elephant and the rider. You might have heard me talk about this before because I talk about it a lot. But, you know, let's say that you are you and your consciousness. You know, what you think, what you believe you've done, what decisions you think you've made. You firmly believe that, yeah, no, that was me. That was my choice, and I'm responsible for that choice. But also, you're riding an elephant, and the elephant has a lot of autonomy. So if you're doing something like mindless work, like washing dishes, or vacuuming, cleaning windows, something like that doesn't really take any thought, the elephant's doing more of that. Because the elephant knows how to do stuff, you know. So there's sort of this question is, well, which one are you? Are you the elephant or the rider? And that's sort of different for everyone.
In other words, in Muppets Most Wanted, when it's Kermit and other Kermit, me and enemy.
Yeah, no, and we see the commercials with the good angel and the bad angel on the two shoulders. And the other aspect of that, which I sort of talked about, is the cultural aspect, which in that picture could be the elephant. You know, we are largely driven as a product of the way we were, where we were born and how we were brought up. You have a place?
I was just going to Jesus juke it, and like when he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, the heart, soul, mind, and strength, which is like the emotions, the soul is like your personality, it's not the thing that goes away when you die, and then your body, like your strength is your body, and then your mind is your intellect. That those are basically the four things that make up a human. Not to say that, like, you know, if a person doesn't have a functioning, either one of those four things, that doesn't make you any less human, but those are the things that are contained within what would constitute a human being. And so I think for me, it's when I truly take all four of those things and let them rest together, rather than trying to kick one of them out.
Yeah, that's very true. And we want to be integrated people, where our minds and our bodies, the way we have our relational and our emotions, we want all of those to be integrated. Absolutely. Yeah. And Christ wants them. Loves, I think, all parts of that. I'm going to veer a little bit to the doubt part. So I'm wondering if anybody else has come to a place where you started to doubt. First of all, let's go with the biggie, God, the existence of God. Now, I mentioned about our church being a safe place. I want this church to be a safe place for that question too. And I want to, I guess, be a little vulnerable in this and say, I have lots of doubts. And my experience is that people are, that there's a spectrum of, within Christianity, of people who doubt. Some are so sure of God, like they just know it and they know that they don't. And then others are on this other end, which are, I have no idea. And I think almost all of us, are in there somewhere. I'm on the edge of I don't know. But it's important for me to tell you this as your pastor, or as one of your pastors. Even though I'm on this end of the spectrum of not knowing, I'm all in. I have picked to believe. Yeah, it is faith. I have chosen this way. That doesn't mean that I stop doubting. It just means I've chosen to be all in with Christ in the middle of my doubt. So the picture this isn't a great picture, but it's all I got right now, is whenever I go on an airplane, and I've flown a lot, I touch the outside of it as I go in through the door, and I'm every time struck, it's metal. I've never gone on a plane that wasn't some kind of metal. The plane is so heavy that I know in my mind, it's so clear to me that the airplane is never getting off the ground. It's impossible. It's just like, I couldn't lift it. All of the passengers could get out and try to lift it up, and we couldn't. There's no way the plane's getting off the ground. And every time I get on the plane, and in the middle of my doubt, I just keep picking, this is what I'm choosing to be, to believe as if God truly does exist. That's where I'm all in. Anyway, so I just wanted to clarify that we can doubt. You have freedom to doubt as much as you want. And you don't have to pick what I've picked. But I want you to know that's what I picked. Yeah.
So I definitely have a kind of a weird history with faith and everything. So when I was born, I don't ever remember having a concept of God, even though I was raised in church and all that. It's just people were saying this thing, like, it's a brand of cereal that I should be buying. Like, okay, I guess I could. Sure, why should I? So it never even really sunk in. It was just like, oh yeah, God's like the dude in the sky that everyone likes to talk about. I don't know what they're talking about. I'd never even experienced anything that was remotely supernatural or, all that. You're a kid, right? It's hard to understand all the nuance of, I guess, what God is, or who, or, there's a lot of questions. But to me, it was just so unclear for the longest time. And then, as I got older, I realized I'm kind of different, and then as I got even older, I realized that I'm part of the LGBTQIA+ community, And that's when things really took off in a different direction. You know, it was like I was the black sheep anywhere I went, except with my friends, who turns out later in life came out to me, even though they told me it was true. You know, I believe people. So I wasn't as alone as I thought, but it sure felt like it. So that middle part of my brain was saying, come out to these people? Are you crazy? Go to church? Believe in God? What? So they can like burn you at the stake? Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. You know, and then two parts of my brain are telling me, no way, man. That's a death sentence. You know, so just go back to your laptop and play your games. That's your life. I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. But I got tired of that after a while. And I actually went out and got a life and everything, and now that I have a life, boy, what a pain in the ass it is being an adult. Excuse my language, but, you know, it is terrible for the most part. It was pretty great sometimes, too. And it just got harder and harder to have good times with no faith, firmly believing that I cannot believe in a God, I cannot entertain that concept. You know, Jesus was definitely just a regular guy, cult leader, right? Had to be, like all the others. But even if that's all true, so what? It's done a lot of good, hasn't it?
Just a real quick aside. You know, Jesus is so unlike the other cult leaders, right? And I'd like to give one other way. Jesus doesn't demand that you even acknowledge him as the leader. Jesus is not offended at, he's not a 2-year-old who is easily offended. Jesus would love for you to receive his love. Jesus would love to receive your love. But he's not vindictive in any way. It's not that kind of cult leader. You can leave anytime you want. It's always Jesus is always laying himself down, submitting, loving. It's just crazy what a different kind of God, what a different kind of individual Jesus is. So, great. Who else was about doubt?
For me, it was when my dad got cancer. That was kind of the big moment where I started to, if God does exist, he's a bastard.
Right.
And if God doesn't exist, then I think we're going to be okay anyway. But I kept trying, I guess.
Maybe that's too much doubt.
I'm sorry, y'all God's coming for us.
You know what I was saying about doubt? I give it all back. Do not doubt.
But when I started to look at when I started to go to different spots, like some of the more Eastern side of things, it was less, does God exist? And instead, is to exist God? And so it wasn't some being over here that I'm not really sure about. It was more, am I being, and therefore I'm sure that something has given me existence. Which is super high philosophy blah blah, which doesn't matter at all. But it helped me to stop seeing God as that big white guy on the throne with a beard, and more so like, when I look at you, or I look at you, or I look at you, that's where God is. It's more so everything, not like this chair is God way, but that type of thing, if that makes sense.
That's great. I'll give a quick picture. When our kids were young, we told them, I hope this isn't a spoiler alert for anybody, we told them that Santa Claus was not real. And so we enjoyed pretending, but it was always them pretending with us. And the reason is, we didn't want to equate believing in Santa Claus with believing in Jesus or believing in God, anything like that. We just vowed we would always tell our children the truth. Well, what's happened in a lot of, I can't imagine how many times this has happened for people where they have associated God as the fixer with God existing. And so when God the fixer doesn't come through, therefore there is no God. So if your dad has cancer, well, what God does is fix stuff. God doesn't fix your dad. Therefore, God doesn't exist. And one of the things we have to do is disconnect God with the fixer. And instead, we're going with what we picked as a church, at least right now, is God. We're putting with God is with us. That is something that we're going to hang our hat on. If God isn't with us, okay, then maybe he doesn't exist.
I want to add a little something to my story. When I do remember now, when I was
It's not a ghost.
I love God. God is
Unless it's the Holy Ghost. That could be the Holy Ghost back there.
No, then you say, come on in. Come on,
Oh,
take a seat.
Come on
Right,
in.
right.
That's right, Ralph.
Come on in. Exactly. It's the Holy Ghost.
Well, I guess it's not that, so. It's kind of dumb, but okay. So I was just reminded, that was a little freaky. I was just reminded that when I was a little kid, I did try to see if I could find anything, if God was real. So I remember, when I was a little kid, my belly button was an outie, and I really was embarrassed by that. I'm like, look at me, I look like a little dwarf, So I prayed for an any belly button. And then a year later it happened. I'm like, okay, it took a long time, but I guess it did happen. And then I got, another year later, I'm like, what was I thinking? That's what happens. It's part of biology. But anyway, but it didn't instantly pop in. So I was like, wow, okay, guess there is no God, raise my hand to that.
I prayed that I would get Wolverine powers when I was 15.
Harper and then Ralph.
Sidebar. I would do the same thing. It was like Santa Claus week or my friend, so we try to catch me with the act. I would put up cookie trap, try to snatch him, be like, you're giving me all the presents, and I'm beating you up heavily. But whenever it would rain, I would be like, either God is taking a shower, or he's crying, big, heavy tears, or I'm in a dream. And one way to find out, because I was a crazy 4-year-old, whenever I thought it was a dream, it was raining this hard, trying to go out and fly. So I was 4-year-old running over the base, demon circles when it's raining, trying to fly up in the air. And this is reminding me of the big area that I would do it in. Oh, my goodness.
Thanks for that.
Ralph.
My father was 47 when he was diagnosed with cancer. And that's when I learned that I could be mad at God. And I was mad. I was so mad, I even asked him, why couldn't it have been my mother instead of my father? That's how mad I was. And I could not understand. I went to my pastor and I said, why? He said, that's just the way God planned it. That was not an answer to me.
It's a bad answer. And not only is it not an answer, it's a bad answer.
I mean, I could not understand, I did not understand, and I still don't understand to this day. He was only 47, he had led a good life, I know that, but still, it still hurts, it still, like I said, that's not an answer. He only lived 6 months after the diagnosis, but that's why I'm wondering, it's okay to be mad at God.
And that's right.
And it's still okay to be mad at God.
It is.
I know she has plans for us all, and I know we're supposed to go with her plan and do what she wants us to do, because every day is what she has designed for us, and we're supposed to walk the path that she wants us to walk. And I try every day to do that. Before my feet hits the floor in the morning, I tell her to please let me walk the path she wants me to walk and be the Christian she wants me to be, and be the person everybody thinks I am. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And I know some of it is predestined, and I try, I really try. But it's okay to be mad at God, because I know sometimes she's mad at me.
Yeah, thank you, Rafa. And I don't know if she's ever mad at you. That's probably not a place I would go personally. But I'll tell you where I would go, and I think you'd go there with me. When your father was dying, God was with your father.
Oh, I think so.
And God was with you. And God is with you now.
Oh, I hope so.
That's what we're going with. And I really, to the depths of my being, if there is a God, and that's what I've gone with, that's the characteristic of God, is that she is love and that she is with us. That's what, if there is a God, that's the kind of God I know exists. And as I said, that's what I picked. Thank you, Rafa. Matt, did you have something?
Yeah, just a little bit. Faith and doubt go hand in hand. I mean, none of us were around when Jesus was walking the earth at the time, but yet, 2,000 years later, we still believe in him, we still talk about him, and we keep going no matter what we do. We know he's there, we know he'll be there for us, even though it doesn't seem like it. But he answers in his own time, not in ours. So we keep praying, we keep believing. I mean, how many other people do we think about 2,000 years later? None of these other guys, we know the apostles saw him, but none of us here have ever seen him, correct?
That's right.
So we just keep treading the path that he wants us to walk.
I'd like to sort of run with, as just the last part of this talk, I'd like to run with something that you said. That's what I'm going with. And that's what McLaren talks about in this book. So the next 4 weeks are going to be about this idea of the doorway, of how we can have a more mature faith because we've doubted. Without doubt, I don't know that we can ever mature. You think of a child that everything is clear for, everything is binary understanding, right? Everything's good or bad, right or wrong, that kind of understanding. Unless they can get beyond that understanding, they'll never get to a nuanced understanding of the richness of God's love. And so, I really believe this, that doubt is our way in. That Jesus invites us to doubt. And I'll give one reason, and it's the reason you just mentioned. At least in a way, that none of us have touched Jesus, and like the second song talked about. None of us have seen Jesus in those ways. God could have made themselves much more clear to us right? Anybody else like, yes, they could have made themselves much more clear to me. But they didn't. They invite us to question. They invite us to doubt. They invite us to discover the goodness of God. We're going to take communion now. So this is open communion. This is for anybody that wants it. And it's very, I don't know, laid back, I guess. You can go to the back, and back there are some kind of cracker and some kind of juice. And anyone that wants can go back and get those, and we'll take those together here in just a moment. So now as we take this bread, we take it not as people who know the answers, not as people who have it all figured out. We take this at the invitation of Jesus to be in a relationship. Like the invitation, at your time, know me. We drink this together as acknowledgement of Jesus' love. That this is who Jesus is. Jesus is the God of love. So Jesus, even now we thank you. Thank you that you invite us not to know, but to trust in the middle of doubt. That you invite us to doubt. That you invite us to ask the questions. And that's what we're going to do. I would ask you would lead us into truth. You would lead us into relationship. And that you would lead us into love. Thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Boys, it's good to have you here. It's so good to be together. I'm somebody that loves the rain. I don't know about if that's a thing for you, but I love the sun and rain. I get it from my daughter. Who loves the rain. So on a rainy afternoon, great to have you here.
If anybody who doesn't like driving in the rain, it's okay if you want to wait it out.
Yeah.
We'll hang out.
For sure. I actually hate driving in the rain. I just love being inside in the warm, in the rain.
Or walking in the rain.
Kristen loves walking in the rain. I'm not as big into that, but she does. We have just a few announcements. One is I just wanted you to know about Renee. We couldn't have the Navajo dinner on Friday because Renee's father passed away this past week. And so, we've all been sort of mourning that. They left Monday morning, Renee and all the kids left Monday morning, and they're returning, you said tomorrow, right? Tomorrow morning they're headed back and are trying to get in here by late Tuesday night. And so I just wanted you to know about that. You can be praying for Renee and the family. The mourning continues, right? Even after the funeral. And this is a family that's very close to their father and grandfather.
Yeah, they had a hard time deciding whether to pull the plug or not.
they had to make a decision about life support, and that was very difficult. Renee and her mom, I think, were the main people deciding that. That was very hard.
What I would like to do is what we call in the mountains, pounding.
Yeah.
What she would really need when she gets home is stuff that was perishable in her refrigerator. A pound of butter, a pound of bread, a pound of bologna, cereal, stuff to feed that brood.
Right.
Stuff that probably ruined in this past week. If we could get some stuff together and take it to her, that would be great.
Wednesday morning would be ideal for that, wouldn't it?
Whatever time.
We couldn't get there.
Every time.
We couldn't get in any time before Wednesday. It would be locked up. But I love that idea. For those of you online, Rafa mentioned the idea of a pounding, where we bring in items, especially perishable items.
Yeah.
I don't know how, Ralph, if you can help us do that, we'd love to do it. You tell us how to do it.
Well, it's just, you know what a large fruit she's got, and you know how they love to eat. Let's be honest. And so it's just called a pounding because,
Yeah.
a pound of peanut butter, bread, lunch meats, cereal, milk, especially milk, things like that.
Yeah. Great, okay.
If anybody could donate, we would take it to her because
Yeah,
I'm sure
Dolores.
she'll
Why
need
don't
it.
we just take a donation now, and then you can know?
That would be great. Can we do that? How do we do that?
Is the fund still,
They could give to donation box, couldn't they?
Or they could win that.
Or they could what?
Or they could win that.
Yes, they could Venmo, people could Venmo or do donor box or do cash. Logan, can you be the gateway of the money? So Logan will be the money person. If you want to help with Renee and the family, the church has helped already monetarily, just so you know. But this would be beyond that. This would be specifically this pounding for Wednesday morning.
I'm
Thank
just
you.
thinking she's not going to feel like going to the store when she gets home.
Yes, no, that's right.
Especially if they drove out there and drove back.
They're doing Arizona, New Mexico to here in basically 2 days. It's crazy.
And you know how driving little kids are.
Oh, I know.
It's like time to the roof.
Oh, I can only imagine. Sweet Colin. Okay.
And with a pregnant lady, come on.
And a pregnant daughter, for sure. Other announcements?
great job on Pride, everybody.
Oh, yeah, thank you for Pride, everyone. We had great participation, great togetherness. And then last Sunday, our combined service here, that was beautiful. Logan, thank you for that. And Andrew and Agnes, thank you for coming. It was great to have you here last week. Anytime we get to have you is a good thing. All right, we love you all. Great to have you.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
What do we think about Pride being indoors this year?
What?
Just for everyone.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, like a rainbow
I
color.
hate it. I hate it.
You guys are crazy.
So,
But where is it? It's
I
not
don't
about
know.
being comfortable. It's not about being safe, the air conditioning. It's not about paying money to go there. It's not, it's not like a corporate festival. It's a political activism. So the way I see it,
Be
being
indoors
inside,
with air conditioning.
there are some people who are being interviewed on TikTok and they're ecstatic that there's less rainbow flags this year. That we're not shoving them down the kids' throats and everything, all that.
yeah, right. So there are there are differences of opinion, and if you have a strong opinion, you can voice that to Clay.
There was also a survey.
And yes, there's a survey. You can do that online. All right. Thank you, everybody. Great to be with you. And Pride Day was really wonderful.